I am delighted to welcome Eli Natoli onto our podcast today. Ellie is a marketing strategist, author, and host of the Marketing Your Truth podcast. She helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs grow profitable businesses by building trust first before tactics, funnels, or constant content production. After years of watching smart, capable experts burn out chasing attention without building the trust required for enrollment, Ellie developed the Serve event method, a live, relationship driven experience designed to replace webinars, pitch heavy launches, and months of unnecessary marketing activity. At the core of her work is a simple belief: people don't need more persuasion, they need clarity. Ellie helps entrepreneurs claim their authority, articulate why they are the right person for their work, and create messaging that feels honest, grounded, and sustainable. Ellie, it's lovely to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to start off by asking you, how did you start your business, or how did you get to be in how did you get to be in what you're doing now?
So I actually come from agency background. I used to run a software design and development firm with my husband, who's also a user experience designer. And we both were in a software company and we jumped ship to start our own agency, thinking that is going to be all rainbows and roses once we make the jump to entrepreneurship. So this was early 2000, and it was at a very interesting time because online marketing was just starting to become a new kid on the block. And at the time that we made the jump, we kind of thought that we could just kind of apply the same rules that we were using in the software company because we were in charge of also the client acquisition. So a lot of the ways that we were getting in front of clients and making sales for the company, which was networking, responding to proposals, doing the dog and pony show type of presentations in front of clients, we're going to apply as we make that transition to starting our own agency. But then online marketing entered the picture, and then everything kind of started to change. And then little by little, I became the front facing person who was kind of taking on the marketing role. And at the time, some of the things that a lot of us were doing were just like, jumping on social media, posting, creating like your newsletter, sending out those newsletters or those emails, and creating, articles and things like that, so on and so forth. And what I started noticing as I was taking on putting on this marketing hat on, was that, and I was following some of the best in the online marketing world. What I started noticing is that, like, a lot of what we were creating and putting out there wasn't really working. And I was more focused on that little, like 10% or 5% that was actually working. And the question for me, and this was like 4 years of ongoing kind of like being really curious and trying to figure out that why is it that when we put one social media post out there, this one does really well. This one, results in people reaching out to us, inquiries and clients, but then 50 other posts that we're putting out there does nothing.
Mm.
Or this one newsletter, results in clients, but then 50 other newsletters that we've written does nothing. So, long story short, eventually this kind of like a jigsaw puzzle kind of came together. And what I noticed was a pattern between all of the pieces that were working. What I realized that the ones that were working, they had something that was very personal about us in them. And by that I mean is it was either something that we really believed about the way that the solution needs to be delivered or the way that the industry needs to go about solving the problem. It was out of either a value that we held really deeply around the work or personal experience that we had for ourselves or, as a result of working with clients. So that was the first part. That was very eye-opening. The second part that was very surprising was that the pieces that did really well, there was no outcome attached to them. And by that I mean is normally when we were writing like the social media posts or what have you, the starting point for us was like, what do we need to share today? So then people would understand, our audience would understand that we're the right company that would hire us. But the pieces that actually did well, they all originated from a different sort of like initiation. And that was like, we really feel like our audience need to hear this.
Mm,
It's our obligation to tell them this, or like we need to go and tell them like this is not working or this is working. So it was like we had no expectation of
mm,
the outcome, and those pieces ironically did really well. So when this pattern emerged, and I started sprinkling both of those into our marketing pieces. Then everything started really flowing for us. And that was the starting point where I decided to write my book, Service First Framework, where I
mm.
brought both of those into the marketing picture, right? Into the tactical stuff in marketing. And because I wanted everybody to know about it. I'm like, why is nobody talking about these two things? And so that was the start of my own coaching and consulting business, sort of starting and taking off.
Great. So what I'm hearing is this very strong emphasis on sharing content that's very much that's personal. It's about your own experience. It's and the second thing is you're coming from a place of basically sharing information where have you're seeing a trend or you're seeing behavior developing or you're seeing outcomes where you feel your audience needs to be informed about what's going on. So you're coming, it sounds like it's very personal. You're talking about your own experiences. And just by way of example, I see a lot of people who share what they're doing, like they show what they're working on their business or how their work's evolving and what they've learned. But it also sounds like there's much more authentic because it doesn't feel like you're trying to sell to people. It's more that there's a problem that they're trying to solve, and you have basically you're seeing something where you're seeing a trend or you're seeing an outcome where you think this is going to help them to crack what they're trying to get across.
So, yes. The way that a lot of us have been taught, or actually we kind of share our content, whether it's on social media, emails, or however method that we're using, is that we show up and share our wisdom, our knowledge, what we are doing, what is working, what our audience shouldn't be doing. But if we kind of zoom out of it, the approach that we're taking, if that, we took our name away from that post that we're putting out there, or our company name away, a lot of the content that it gets, published is very interchangeable. And that's why a lot of content is generic. And right now, especially in the age of AI, where it's just putting content out there is really not a big deal anymore, and
Yeah,
there's so much of it. If we don't bring I call them like your signals, basically all the things that you bring into your solution, into your business, without even realizing it, because a lot of people don't even take a look at like, why am I solving this problem this way? What is it about my personality, my beliefs, my values, the mission or the purpose that I hold when I,
yeah,
go through this business? If we don't bring those things, our unique perspective, our unique lens into the
yeah,
conversation, we're gonna sound just like everybody else. So when I say like something personal about us, that's what I mean. Like really making the content ours,
yeah,
speaking from where we're coming from. And then for the outcome, really, if we think about it, because we're all so fixated on every piece that we putting out there has to do with job, like this social media has to get attention or this email has to get open rate. There's a lot of pressure on us. And as
yeah,
a result, we're not really stepping, forward in our strength.
yeah,
We're weakening our message. So that's all it is.
yeah. I like what you said about your signal. There's someone who I work with who I have a lot of respect for, who you may have heard of, called Tad Hargrave. He runs a business called Marketing for Hippies, and he talks about point of view marketing. And with everything he does, there's a very like a very Tad Hargrave perspective. You know, he's got his own very unique perspective on how marketing should work, and it comes across in spades. As a result, he's got a very responsive audience. You know, if he tells his audience to click through to something, they listen to him, and he even has when he promotes partners, he has an affiliate link, and then he has a non-affiliate link because he's trying to say to you, well, if you feel somehow uncomfortable with the fact that I'm gonna get affiliate commission, then by all means go and click on the non-affiliate link. Of course, what happens is that everybody wants to click on the affiliate link. But I'm using here as an example that, he's someone who's absolutely not, you could not interchange him with somebody else because he's got his very personal perspective on how things should work.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest complaint that I hear from prospects and clients is like, I don't have enough. I mean, how many different ways can I talk about what I do or my solution?
Yeah.
And the answer is a lot of different
Mm.
ways. Because if you're finding it hard to talk about what you do and your solution, you sound like you're starting to feel like you're sounding the same over and over,
Yeah.
is because you haven't done enough work to understand your unique point of view. And I am somewhat familiar with Tad's work, but not really, really deeply. And I don't know how he comes out when he speaks about point of view. But the way I see it is, it's not just one point of view. There's a collection of point of views that we all have
Yeah.
in different ways that we do the work. And the more you kind of become in tune into
Mm.
what your point of views are in different areas as you do the work, the more distinct and differentiated your messaging, your positioning, and even the way that you are solving the problem becomes.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know how you developed everything you're telling me about. You developed this into a method. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so serve event method, actually, it kind of went through these phases as I was working with clients.
Mm.
And so when I started my own coaching and consulting, and I was at the time, online courses were, all the rage. And for our first business, we were selling online courses. And then, of course, when I started my own coaching and consulting, I was selling online courses as well. And so everybody who would come to me at that time would come for that reason. Like, can you help me turn my knowledge or wisdom into an online course? And what I would tell everyone right from the start is, if you want to work with me, it's not going to be like, let's create a course and put it out there. It's going to sell. We need a longer time to build your audience, to build traction, to nurture that audience. And then as we're validating this course idea, so we realistically need about 6 months to get there. And that was a turnoff point for a lot of people, especially because here they are, all these people in front of them telling them, yeah, let's create a course in 48 hours. And then by next month, you'll be making six figures from your course. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. So long story short, as after like years of working with clients, and I knew I had to come up with a better way to get them there that is more reliable and faster.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I was actually the focus that I was moving towards was an event, like which now today I call a serve event. But my idea was like, what if before we create a course, we actually take the idea of the course and go to the market and run an event. But during that event, the purpose of this event is very, very focus on helping the people who are inside that event understand themselves better than anybody else is explaining to them in the market right now as it comes to their niche or industry, and take them through a buyer's journey
Yeah.
for them to make a decision. Because all of us, whether we realize it or not, we go through two journeys,
Yeah.
emotional and logical journey.
Yeah.
Bake all of that into this event.
Yeah.
And if this person who wants to sell an online course, if they're able to, within that event, if they're able to sell the idea of the course
Yeah.
and then teach it live, then not only they've built an audience, not only they have validated the course idea, they've also made money.
Yeah.
So that's what I went to the market. But eventually, as we kind of, and I sold that in a program setting and in a cohort setting. I worked with clients for like 4 or 5 years, just doing, rolling out this idea for them to sell their courses. But then as we got into 2021, what I started hearing in the market was from a lot of colleagues that they were running webinars to sell their offers. I was hearing from them that it's getting really hard to get people to come to webinars, and it's becoming more and more difficult to sell from running webinars. But then I was still, for myself and my clients, we were running these events.
Mm.
Although the focus wasn't on the event, was on selling their solution, and they're still doing well. And so, long story short, as we kind of moved into 2023 or so, that kind of idea where people are like, like hearing all the rumors about like webinars are not doing well, it just became more and more widespread. I was hearing it more. People were like moving away from doing webinars or saying this is not working, but my events were still doing really well. So in 2023, I took a really close look at what am I doing inside these events,
Yeah,
that is still performing so well. And I realized that the magic of this entire system is in the event itself. And so, in a lot of ways, what I'm doing with these sort of events is I'm collapsing time and effort. There's four phases, right, in any marketing initiative that we go through, that people need to go through. Our audience needs
right.
to go through to become aware, to know that our business or our solution exists, to become familiar, to be connected, and then trust us enough to buy from us.
Right.
So essentially, instead of doing all these scattered marketing pieces, you do it all in one event.
So that means you don't have a. Does that mean rather than having a launch of a whole load of steps, you saying you incorporate all of that into that to the one event?
Exactly. So imagine, you're on social media, and this is what people do, right? They use social media or all types of different marketing initiatives to get seen, to get in front of their audience.
Yeah.
And then after that, what comes next? You run events, you send emails to build that sense of familiarity, to build connection, and you're hoping that all of that is going to lead to that person trusting you enough to buy from you.
Yeah.
Now, that was all well and good back in prior to 2020, when noise wasn't at all-time high, where attention wasn't so scattered, where people were not so skeptic. But
Yeah.
now, because of all of that, it has taken a lot of effort and time, both on our end, in terms of trying to piece everything together across all these different marketing initiatives. And also, it is too much overwhelm for our audience, for
Yeah.
them to make sense of whether or not, should I buy from Ellie or should I, buy from Danny? It's like I can't make that decision.
Yeah.
But you can kind of bring it all together into
Mm.
one event and
Yeah.
give them what they need to, within that 1 hour or 90 minutes, not only they become familiar with what you do, not only they feel a sense of connection to you, not only at the end, if there's alignment, they go, oh, this is the right solution, but you've taken them through all the questions that consciously and subconsciously they're asking
Oh,
themselves as they're evaluating whether or not this is the right solution for
mm.
me. So you're kind of creating this shortcut. You're collapsing time and effort by running an event this way.
Yeah. Now, I think this conversation is so important because this whole podcast is about partnerships, and partners want to promote partners who have successful events, right? You want your you are basically putting your reputation on the line by promoting the partner, and you want to make sure that the expert that you're promoting is basically producing an event that's going to be credible, that's going to make the audience feel confident that this person can help them solve their problem. And I wonder if I wonder if you could just talk about um, some of the traditional things that partners do on webinars and really what they should be doing instead. I know
Yeah.
it's become very formulaic,
Yes.
and I know you talked about that, so I'd love you to share that.
Yeah, 100%. So, in a basic or regular way that we've been taught to run webinars, we take one or two approaches. You have the type of people who hate to show up and be pushy and formulatic, and they want to give value.
Yeah.
So as a result, they end up teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching on that webinar. And they're hoping that all that goodwill that they're putting out there, and I see some people run like multi-day events just
Oh,
teaching.
I mean, just from personal experience, I remember years ago speaking, doing public speaking. And my understanding was I had to give away my best stuff. I had to do lots of teaching. And what I remember was the delegates at the conference writing lots of notes, but then walking away and not getting inquiries from it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's the mistake that I made also at the beginning from the stage and also when I was doing my events as well. We have this idea, and part of it is because we're being told like give away value, give away your best stuff, and that's going to result in clients. That's not true at all. If what you're saying, what you're sharing doesn't create this sense of confidence for your audience, confidence that your solution is going to work for them, and confidence that you understand their situation as well, and you're going to deliver. Like there are a lot of things baked into this. So by just showing up and teaching, you're not going to get them there. So that's the first way that people go about webinars, and it really does not result in that many enrollments, especially now where we're at the age of information is everywhere.
yeah,
So just teaching people is not going to get you there. And then, of course, we have the other way, which is this following this formula. In a lot of ways, it is a hero's journey. Like you show up, you do pain point marketing, basically touching on their pain points. Like if you're experiencing this, you're in the right place. If you're experiencing this other thing, you're in the right place. And then you take them through your own hero's journey. I was here, kind of like trying to relate to them. And then I went through, this journey, and then I found the solution, and you're hoping in that hero's journey they're gonna kind of identify with themselves in your story,
yeah,
and then you go to the pitch, right? The issue is that we've all seen that movie. We
yeah,
know the ending. It's just it doesn't work anymore. And a lot of that, people just have walk into the event. They know they're kind of getting themselves ready to get pitched. They know already, and like I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna hear a bunch of fluff at the beginning. Maybe there's 5 or 10 minutes of wisdom or something that I can take away, and then at the end, it's going to be pitch, pitch, pitch. And so that's why a lot of people right now are saying that when I run webinars, people leave halfway through because they've seen the movie. They're tired
yes,
of it.
right. Yeah. And I remember being taught if I want to sell my program, I've got to give away a whole stack of things as well. I have to sell them. You get this and 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 this, and it's all worth about $10,000, but you get it for $1,000. So what's your view on all of that?
I think, we're dealing with a market that is much more sophisticated right now. We're dealing with a market that everybody right now, given where we are, they are very selective. They are taking their time to make a decision, and they can smell, the fake urgency from a mile away. They've seen that again, that playbook, and
Yeah.
they know that people are buying. They're just taking their time to buy. I just opened up my own cohort last month.
Mm.
And when I get to the end, when I get to the invitation, yes, there is an urgency in terms of number of seats because I can't take more than 12 people into my cohort. I want to make sure that I truly support everyone. That's the only urgency. I don't stack up bonuses. I don't create any other fake sense of like, now this is $50,000, but today I'm going to give it to you for $50. I think we're insulting our audience's intelligence at this point by doing that. So I think the biggest thing right now that's missing in the market, and if we're able to offer that to our audience, which is part of what I do inside these sort of events, is to ask ourselves, given where we are in this market, given that information is everywhere, given that people already have taken coaching programs, work with people, bought courses, bought
Mm.
programs, when it comes to your specific market or your niche, your industry, your specific solution, why is it that your audience still are struggling? Why is it that they still haven't been able to solve the problem,
Right.
right? If you look underneath that, if you spend the time, you will understand or you will uncover, if you're not conscious of it right now, not aware of it right now, there are many things that is causing your audience to stay stuck.
Mm.
And if you can, at the very minimum, find those and talk about those, that is going to be the most insightful thing that you can do for them when you're in that event. That's one of the first things that I do when I start my serve events. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. For when I used to run an event for online course creators. And the first thing that I would tell them at the beginning of the event would be, do you know that almost 80% of people in across all industries, all niches, all course topics, 80% of people haven't made more than $1,000 from their online course. This is data from Teachable, from Thinkific.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, people would be like, what? Because they showed up to that event thinking that I'm gonna right now start and say, I'm gonna help you sell your course. I'm gonna give you these 5 tactics or what have you. But here I am showing up. The very first thing that I tell them is that's the reality.
Yeah.
And I would build on that. And for them, like, can you imagine the shame, the guilt that kind of drops? Like, it's not me.
Yeah.
Then, like, I didn't fail. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. You do that, you find the answer to some of the reasons that your audience is stuck and talk about that at the beginning of your event. I tell you, people are going to stay glued to listen to every word that you have to say. I mean, of course, there are like many other things that I bake into these events because it is taking them on that emotional and logical journey. But if you walk through it purposefully and give people the right things that they need to make that decision, they stay with you to the end. I mean, a lot of times when I finish my events and we're done, I'm like, open up, answer, questions. Even if they don't have questions, they still stay there. They're still waiting. You know why? Because I mean, this right now, this type of environment, this type of experience is so rare for people. They want to experience more of it. And
Yeah.
they stay connected to you. And
So
that's the beautiful
here's my
thing.
question. How do you strike that balance? People seem to think that either you're giving away all your stuff and that doesn't work, or you say, okay, I'm not giving my stuff away anymore. I'm just going to go straight into here, this doesn't work. Here's my method. Here's the offer. How do you what I think people are thinking, isn't it one or the other? So tell us about
So,
what's that balance you strike?
yeah, so when we think about giving away our stuff,
Mm,
normally we think about we're thinking about giving away content, right? Giving away information. And that I really do believe, especially where we are in 2026, it doesn't work.
mm,
I think the most insightful thing that you can do for your audience is to help them understand themselves better, to help them understand their situation better as it relates to, how you see the market, the solution, the problem through your lens. And this is where the unique perspective comes in to kind of really take them through all the reasons that they're stuck, why they're stuck, what they've been trying that hasn't worked, and then you tie it into why your solution is the right solution. What are you doing? How have you solved that? Right? So this is part of the way it really is just about helping them see things from your point of view. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, we can't force anyone, we can't pressure anyone to buy from us. But if they can see things from our point of view, if they believe the same things that we believe, then it's easier for them to understand or get to that, conclusion that, the solution is this solution makes more sense for me.
Can I
So
can
if
I
we can kind of
ask if I've understood it correctly? So what you're doing is you're basically showing them why what they're doing isn't working, but then you're showing them this is what I'm doing, and this is why this method works.
these
Um,
are some of the parts, yeah, some of the
um,
core parts that I bring into the sort of events. Yeah, 100%.
so a friend of mine once talked about webinars, and she said to me that you share the why and you sell the how. Do you think that's an accurate description, or would you say this method is slightly different? Yeah,
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 somewhat, because you share the why, and if the why, the way I'm understanding is like why you're here, why you're still stuck, why you're still confronted with this
yeah.
situation, why the things that you're trying hasn't worked up to now, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then how are the ways? How is a better way for you to move out of the situation? And then that ties into your framework, the pillars of your solution. That's also a great way for
Right.
them to get there.
You're,
Yeah,
you're,
that's
you're not, because
yeah.
what you're doing is you're not giving away, when you're telling them what you're doing is working, you're not telling them how to do what you're doing. You're saying it, you're explaining to them why what you're doing works, and then saying if you'd also like to learn how this methodology works, or if you'd like me to help you to implement it, then they can come to you. So all the time, what you're doing is you're giving lots of value, not by teaching them what to do. You're giving them lots of value by teaching them why what they're doing hasn't worked. So they're like, now I get it. Okay, now I know why what I'm doing isn't working. But you're also giving them hope that this is what I've tried. It works. This is why it works. Would you like help to do this as well?
Yeah, and it's more than hope. It should be kind of linked back to the way that you solve the problem,
Mm.
right? So, for example, going back to my course creation example, if I'm telling them 80% of courses don't make more than $1,000 for the course creator, then I have to back it up by saying why that is. So again, that goes back into really understanding and having enough insight yourself. And this is one of the things when I work with clients, we kind of go digging and searching to figure out what's happening in the market, what are the gaps, where who's failing their audience, who's misinforming, misguiding their audience, what are the things that they're doing. Like you got to have total clarity when it comes to those things. So I would back it up by giving them three reasons why most course creators don't make money. And then the solution has to be kind of backed by that, by telling them, now we're going to address like one, two, three. If these are the three reasons that this is not working, let me give you why, three paths inside my solution that is going to solve those three things, for example. And then, so when you get to your offer is those three things. That could be the three pillars of your solution. It could be the framework that you take people through that allows them to get to the solution. So it's really purposeful. Everything is kind of telling a cohesive narrative, a cohesive story for them to get to that conclusion. Okay, this is why I'm here. This is why this hasn't worked. These are the reasons that I've been stuck. But this is a path that is going to help me get out of, this three things that I've been stuck in, sort of a thing, or four things, or five things.
Got it. So I think a really helpful question at this point would be to, if our audience are engaged in joint ventures and they're thinking, okay, what are some of the things I need to look out for in a partner? Where would you point people? Because it
Uh, the
clearly there are people who are very cautious about partnering because they don't want to harm their reputation by promoting people who are aggressive, who are doing a sales, a pitch fest. So yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective there.
I love that question so much, Danny, because I'm also one of those people. I'm being very protective of the way that I'm of my own reputation and the way
Yeah,
that I am building my audience. So for me, I mean, marketing in general it's all about alignment, resonance, connection, and trust.
yeah,
And so every one of us have different personality types. And to me, the way that, someone comes into my ecosystem, my side of the aisle, and in terms of the audience, it's something about me that resonated with them, that I've created or I've communicated the way that I do the work, the way that I see the work in a way that is in alignment with the right people who would want to work with me on and on and on. And
yeah,
so when I want to work with a partner, when I want to do a joint venture, I look to see how that partner is building their audience. What are their values? What are their personality traits? And it has to be in alignment. Are they honoring the same things that I'm honoring? Do they have the same mission and purpose behind their business? Because if there is misalignment there, there's no way that I would do. Doesn't matter how many thousands upon thousands of audience
yeah,
or people they have on their list. that's a no-go for me. So I would say the best thing right now to do, especially in the market that we're in right now, trust is the new currency.
Yeah.
So don't you, every one of us, we're working very hard to build that connection and trust. So just make sure, not everybody, I mean, there might be someone who doesn't resonate with me, but they might have, 10 other JV partners who would be in total alignment with. So
Mm.
I'm not saying there's one right way or a wrong way. I'm just saying, be clear about who you are, what your values and beliefs are, and how you're building your audience and your presence and all of that, and make sure there's alignment with the people that you partner up with.
That's great. So I'd love to. Our audience would, I'm sure, would if they want to find out more about you. How where can they go? Where can they find out about your unique methodology?
Of course. So, I mean, the very best place, the first best place is my website, elinatoli.com. And if they want to learn more about serve event methods, especially some of their four core pieces, that if they want to know how to implement those inside their events, I have a free training, elinatoli.com/freedom from hustle. So if they go there, there's a training that they can go through and exactly see what are the main pillars that they can step through or implement inside their own events.
Fantastic. Ellie, thank you so much for coming on to our show today. It's been a pleasure learning from you.
Thank you so much for having me.